Welcome to my channel. I'm here in Georgia, and I just want to make my opinion about the Warnock and Loeffler debate. Who I thought won. I will give you my pros and cons, and I also will share some things about the climate and the economic conditions of Georgia. I've been down in Georgia since 2005, so I can kind of give you some. I've been in Henry County. I've been in Clayton County, and also I've been down here in Cobb County. Now, those, along with Fulton County, Gwinnett County, those are all of the counties that the President Trump is taking to court in terms of whether or not this voting was valid. Now, let me just get to this about the voting ballots. Now, I would suggest anybody going to vote, if you're going to do a mail-in voting, I suggest that you either go off your party's website, or either you go with the Secretary of State, and that's georgia.sos.gov, and you get that ballot, because that ballot does not ask for a driver's license. Now, there was a dispute. I don't know how true it was, but Stacey Abrams, along with Andrew Yang, and a bunch of other groups got together, coalition, and they were the ones that did the grassroots of somebody came and they got the students registered. Stacey Abrams was spearheading that, and they got the students to register. They just did a lot of groundwork that Republicans normally do, but the Democrats haven't done. And because she did not run as a governor, she lost that race. She took the time to not only put money into infrastructure, as I mentioned in my other video, but she also collaborated with other groups. Like Andrew Yang was over the Asians. He got the Asians involved, and they actually went into this. Not only did they get the people to register, the Asians, the blacks, all groups, Hispanics, they got them all together to register, people in general to register, and they also did grassroots of engagement. And let me tell you, I have gotten so many different ballots. Now, I have gotten, you see these? I've gotten like this thick, this much, between my P.O. box and my home address. I've gotten these many ballots just on the runoffs alone. And as you know, this is important for the Democrats because, like Obama, President Obama's, he was not able to do a lot of really passing a lot of laws and bills because it was such gridlock, because the Republicans had control over the House and the Senate, and that's why we have Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Now, in order for our President-elect Joseph Biden and our first black female, first black female, first Indian female. Come on, hats off to her. She has broken a lot of ceilings, and I just thank God that President Joseph Biden listened, because that really took a chance. But with that being said, only for them to be able to put these bills through as passages, because remember, we still got John Lewis bill, and bill that's on the that's like gridlock, and we want to change some things, because when you think about it, a lot of things need to be reformed. And I will talk about that in the debate, including our criminal justice system. And as Obama said, we don't need to say defund the police, because you have to realize that at least 70% of the people, Republicans, believe that at least 60 or 70% believe that this election was rigged. Now, with that being said, I'm going to get into the debate and what I thought. Now, when Loeffler, and as you know, in that article here, it was saying that Warnock was leading over Loeffler. Loeffler, she came with a lot of information. If you notice, I like the fact that she started, but even though she sounded like a robot, because she said left wing, I think that worked against her. Left wing radical Warnock, she said that about 20 times. I think that worked against her and then she mentioned Schumer, she mentioned Pelosi, and she mentioned, in the way of saying that we're not really here about party. I think she mostly addressed about what she was as a young girl. She was raised on a farm, and how she worked in a restaurant. But I think that she was detached because First of all, let me start with the Black Lives Matter. When the black commentator asked her about this, I think this woman and this black woman with two kids, and I think she didn't have a job or something like that, she went on to say, well, I think she said she kind of like, well, I can understand, but she put the picture back on her. She put the whole discussion on her, and she never came back. You were waiting like, how are you going to incorporate the, you know, mainstream people that's on Main Street from Wall Street, and it was always geared back towards her. So that was a not a good look for her, because she never really answered that question. I thought another issue with her was about when they asked her. Now they didn't really go in depth, but they did ask her about Trump. Did she think the election was rigged? Now I understand her wanting to support her party. Now I understand she don't want to be division, but remember, if she skipped around, she kind of skated around that question, because she said, well, Trump has a right to, he has a right to bring legal recourse, and that is true. But the issue is, and this is what I would have did if I was Warnock, I would have brought with the fact that not only did there was Trump lost in his legal team, Giuliani lost at least 30 cases. And we're talking about in the federal and Supreme Court, they've lost. Now, I would have came back with that and asked her, why do you still think that the election is rigged here in Georgia? Because if it's rigged here in Georgia, then more than likely you think it's rigged in the other states. But he didn't come at that. Now with the Black Lives Matter, I want to make a point that she's a co-owner over the WNBA, which is a pro basketball team, all female pro basketball team. And they had made a stance against the Black Lives Matter. And she, in July in 2020, you can do your research. And I want to ask at the end, what do you think how she did? But she had came and told her team that she didn't want them supporting the Black Lives Matter issue. So that was, to me, from the perspective as a Black African American, I think that was a negative towards her. So she didn't ask about the family. She didn't address the family. She turned it back on her. Number two, she even though it wasn't brought up, I would have brought it up as if I was Warnock. I would have brought that up. Why did you tell your team to stand down on the Black Lives Matter movement? Number three, like I said, I mentioned about Trump. Now remember, people don't realize that it was Governor Kemp that selected Loeffler in December of 2020 against Trump's wishes. Now, this is all Republican Party. And we also know that Trump might have hurt this election. And I know she wants to stay loyal to Trump, because I guess she wants to stay loyal to the party. But this is not about party. This was the time to come forth and say, hey, look, we are going to move forward. And she could have said this. Instead of her saying, well, she could have said that too. And Trump has a right to bring these charges, these and challenge the vote. But at the same time, she never said whatever the findings were, I would respect those findings. So you kind of left in the open. Are you going to leave still thinking that the election is rigged, but you're a senator? Now, moving on to this. Now, she was criticized for saying, how many times she said left-wing radical Warnock? About 20 times. So after a while, I was telling somebody she sounded like a wound-up doll. And one of the newscasters on TV, CNN, and one of them said, she also sounded like you need to put in the jukebox. You get that one song? So some things she really went in on attack. Now, let me talk about the child abuse that she accused Warnock on. Now, the child abuse happened in his camp. I did research it. He was exonerated, but he was exonerated because he was providing legal counsel for the black children. I think they were black teenagers. Now, being in America, if you're a black African American, if you're poor, if you're white, if you're middle class and just don't have that money to properly get the best legal team to defend you, they're gonna just run over black teenagers. and black people as they have with even with the killings of our unarmed black people. Beginning with that is, I think she lost because she could not connect with the people. She always talked about Pelosi, Schumer. She made more of a party thing than with connecting with everyday people. That was her problem. Another issue too. She and Warnock had brought this to her attention. You never went to the rural. Because Trump was focusing all on the suburban cities. And he was talking about, he used the same message that Nixon did. Oh, you better go all. You don't want domestic violence in your suburban communities, which was saying, blacks coming out there to bring violence to white Americans. But he didn't understand that Clayton County and Henry County in 2005, they were already diverse. They already had come to Georgia campaign. They already had Katrina coming there. They already were tearing down houses and projects and making it more of a mixed community. So you can have a mixed community with people with middle class. You could have people working. Maybe they got affordable housing according to their income, and then you had Section 8. So you had affordable housing was a effort to put people with different incomes in one area, which would make the community better, and then it would also encourage other people to and have opportunities to certain things in terms of grocery stores, good having access to even transportation and things like that, and even for jobs. Now, let me hit on the jobs for here. The biggest issue is, I remember when I came down here, I'm from Wayne County. So when they talked about that thing about Detroit, when the white Republican elector said she's going to certify everybody but Detroit, and Wendell Anthony got on the Zoom and said, this is corruption as the highest degree. And then Livonia, which I used to go and do my gun range, I used to shoot to go and qualify at the gun range of Middle Belt in Livonia, Michigan, and that was predominantly white. Right now it's 80% white. So the guy got on the Zoom and said, this was corrupt. So they ended up certifying. Let me get back to what Trump was focusing on. They and the Republicans was focused on suburbanites, but they didn't realize that Atlanta is just not Atlanta, it's Metro Atlanta. So when you have these counties like Fulton County, you have DeKalb County, you have Cobb County, you have Clayton County, and I told you about how Katrina and Come to Georgia campaign just was a black of not only black people, just people from all over. You had not only blacks, but you had Asians, you had people Russians. I heard people just different dialects. And also Forsyth, Cherokee County is by Cobb County, but they're mostly voted Republican this time. But Cobb County will be voted a Democrat. Now let me tell you about Cobb County. KSU is in Cobb County. KSU was a high school student that just went to KSU, and she had she was a freshman, maybe 17 years old, and she organized a Black Lives Matter at one of these parks in Cobb County on a Sunday. And I used to walk at that park, and she was expecting 100 people. I'm telling you, thousands of people came out, okay? Mostly white people. So people are looking for a change. Another thing too, like I said, when I worked in law enforcement, when I came down here, a lot of people don't want to come down here, especially in law enforcement. They don't pay anything down here. They don't pay anything down here. The average minimum wage is $7. Okay, so this is another thing too. Like Yellen said, President-elect Biden has selected Yellen to be over the economics, and she was saying on one of the podcasts or things, she said she wants to pull up the youth into the middle class, because remember, all these middle class jobs have been destroyed. So let me get back to the debate, and I'm going to finish, and tell me what you thought who won. Now, Warnock at the beginning, he kept looking at when he responded, he kept looking at the panel. But I was like, you got to connect with the camera, you got to connect with the people. And at the end, he kind of was thrown off when at the beginning he would look at the panel to respond, or when I'll notice when Loeffler would attack Warnock, he would it would kind of rough him up, but he got his act together. I just wished he had expounded more, like on when she sold her stocks, and the timing she sold her stocks. Because during the time that she sold her stocks, whether she dumped them or not, because it's a pay to play, and she was not found guilty. But this is the point. The issue I think he should have brought out was not the fact so much that you brought you brought stocks and you dumped stocks during the pandemic. I'm talking about early in the pandemic. And who else did that too? Purdue did it too. But you did not. Regardless if you did it or your agent did it, you knew it happened. And then you also knew, you never came out and shouted the alarm that the pandemic was real. It was real enough. That's the point. If I was Warren, I would have brought that out. You thought the pandemic was real enough for you to dump stocks, but you didn't see it enough that it was real enough to alarm the American people. Okay, I would have came after her for that. And I thought some issues that he went on, I think he should have elaborated. Say for instance about the child abuse, and just say that these were young kids I was exonerated, and these were young kids that I was providing counsel for. And I think he should have went into some more issues, and I'm gonna be done. He should have went in, well, on your watch, there was, in December 2019, remember in December 2019, 700,000 people in America, Trump was going to kick off a food stamp. Now, we're talking about in a nation that's supposed to be the richest nation in the world, and you're taking 700,000 people. He said they were able-bodied, but you have to realize that when it comes to Social Security, everybody is not total disabled. There are some people that can still work, because I work in Michigan Rehab. It's called Ticket to Work. But in the interim, some people cannot work because they're in the process of getting their disability. And then when Trump came in office, all that was clogged up. So here are these people who were in the system trying to get their Social Security disabilities, and then they were being forced off of food stamps in the midst of a pandemic. I would have brought that up. Number two, I would have told her, yes, and on your watch, there's 3.3 million people out of work, and what have y'all done? You haven't brought the people nothing. Which you did mention about the $600. And for the fact that, yes, she'll be the richest senator in that office. But I'm telling you, Warnock connected more with the people. He connected more, and it was interesting that the ads that came out, remember, we've been flooded with ads, okay? And we've been flooded. Look, if they would take this stack of things that they've been putting in our mailbox, they put millions. I think I misread it. I quoted it, but I think it's close to $300 million just into both the parties, just into this runoff. But the runoff is important, guys. So if I was you, I would get in, either do your early voting and get your application. If you're gonna do absentee ballot, get it either off of the Secretary of State .gov site, because that doesn't have a driver license in it. Do not do any provisional ballots, because Stacey Abrams, when she did her Abrams playbook, she found out a lot of the provisional ballots was thrown out. Now that's the ballot you got to fill out, and then put it in another envelope, and it says absentee provisional ballot, and then put it in the mailing envelope. So just make sure you get something. And then there's a third ballot that had it where your driver's license in. I forgot which site that was off, but go to the Secretary of State. So for Warnock, I would have went in a little bit more deeper about how that there is 250,000 people that have died on your watch. You were trying to take $700,000 worth of 700,000 people off of food stamps in the middle of a pandemic. I would have went with the fact that the hospitals do not have their proper PPEs. I would have went with the fact that the rising numbers of pandemic under the Republicans' leadership, they said that there was not a problem during the time he was dumping stocks. And also I would have mentioned about the fact that she didn't want her own team to stand up to Black Lives Matter. I would have brought all that out. And for the fact that over $1 trillion were put into, billions of dollars were put into 10 or 12 individuals, $650 billion worth of tax credits to 12 individuals, and not to mention 600 organizations was giving $10 million each for the businesses. So that money never did filter down. Then the other issue was I would have talked about how she didn't make a stance with the people, and how she's disconnected with the people, and how all those things happen on her watch, and all the things that you're accusing me of. But I'm going to do those things that the people want to do. Is we the people and not a party. That's what I would have ended on. But he ended up coming through on the end. So tell me what you think. God bless. And God bless America. And I will be voting for Warnock and Ossoff. God bless. God bless our military. And God bless America. Tell me what you think.